Wow, welcome to Find Happiness podcast. This is Happy Life Lawani here, and we have Kanooble, Christyann, and we're so happy to have you on our podcast. She survived from some crime violence incidents, and she's here to really share her story.
Well, everyone, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I went through a very traumatic incident when I had just turned 18. I was in school.
Wow.
I don't know if you want me to just jump into it or...
Oh, just a brief thing. There are a series of questions I'll ask, though. Just something brief.
Okay. I went through a violent crime when I was very young.
Wow.
After that, it was just kind of a lifelong 13 years of just wasting away for the most part. I didn't love myself. Anything I did was kind of fake, and I had trouble with emotions. They weren't genuine because I didn't feel them or understand them. I lost my little sister in 2020, and when I lost my little sister, it kind of started a very bad downward spiral. I was using vices, things that I shouldn't have. I ended up giving myself a heart attack at the age of 30 earlier this year, and the week after, I made an attempt to take my own life. And when I did that, it really jump-started my path to recovery. So.
Wow. Okay. Wow. This should have impacted your life so much. So much. I'm so sorry to hear this. Okay, yeah, so I was just going to ask, but that's what you just said. I was going to say, can you tell me more about your experience as a violent crime survivor and how that has impacted your life? But you just talked about that. Okay, so I'll ask you something else. So how did you come to this decision to start mental health platform to help others find healing and give us this information as well?
Sure. Well, to start, I do have a little bit more of an answer to that first question, too, if you want me to. If not, I can just go into the second one.
Please go ahead.
Sure. So when I was the victim, and the violent crime that I went through was a kidnapping, sexual assault, torture, and attempted murder. They shortened that to violent crime. That's the, I guess you could say, the broad term for an attempted murderer. When that happened, it kind of took away my entire identity. I didn't even know who I was as a person yet. I was just 18. I had just become an adult. I had just left home to go to college. And any idea that I had of the person I wanted to be was completely taken from me when that happened. Just any sense of self I had, any sense of confidence and pride, anything I'd learned was completely out the door after that. So, to answer the first question, sorry.
Yeah, you must have gone through so much. I'm so sorry to hear this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
So for your second question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can answer that too. Yeah. I started this project that I have. It's called the Mentally Kill Project. I made it basically a platform and a one-stop shop for any kind of mental health education. Because when I made my attempt in April of this year and I went to the hospital, they take you to a mental institution when you make an attempt. And I was there for 2 weeks and I got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which is probably one of the most extreme mental health conditions just because of the fluctuating emotions and physical pain.
Yeah.
When I got diagnosed and I spent the time in the hospital, I met a lot of people who shared their stories and how their mental health conditions affected their lives. And it inspired me and encouraged me to create a platform, because who better to teach us about mental health conditions than people who have them? So I started doing interviews with people around the world, and I've been releasing them through this project.
Oh, that's great. You know, a lot of people are going through mental health stuff right now, and they don't even know where to turn to. Like I also went through my own trauma, and I couldn't turn left or turn right. But I thank God that this kind of platform is available to help people. You know, most of the time people wouldn't want to talk, people wouldn't want to do anything about this. You just die in shame, die in silence, when you can, just speak up, and then there's a solution. This is going a long way. Thank you. I'm so proud of you anyway.
Thank you.
Okay, so what has been some of the biggest challenges you have faced in your journey to heal from the trauma of this violent crime and your struggles with depression?
So for me, the biggest struggle that I had was after the incident happened, I had no memory of what happened.
Wow.
I had just remembered being kidnapped, and I remembered walking home. So it wasn't actually until this year when I went to the hospital. I spent 30 hours in the waiting room while I was waiting for a room. It was kind of the first time in my life I had no distractions. There was no phone, no TV, no friends, no job, nothing. And I was in there for 30 hours, and I unlocked all of those. They call them recessed memories. 30 hours.
Damn.
During those 30 hours, I triggered the entire time. I didn't know where I was. I was having trouble discerning reality from my flashbacks because my brain started to unlock what they call recessed memories. When something really traumatic happens, your brain tends to lock away some of that information that you can't process all at once. So for me, it locked away the hours of torture and sexual assault that I had gone through and the actual attempted murder that I'd survived. I only thought I'd been kidnapped. And after unlocking all those memories, my biggest struggle was getting out of the hospital and, number one, accepting that that is what I'd gone through, but also finishing my trauma narrative, which is just to explain it for anybody who doesn't know, is the story of your trauma. You rewrite it over and over again to unlock details and memories that you may have forgotten or locked away. So it's probably my number one biggest issue, honestly.
Oh, okay. Well, any other challenges?
Yep. Especially getting out of the hospital was, getting used to medications that I've been put on. Okay. Mood stabilizers for emotional reasons, really trying to struggle with dealing with social aspects and my family. Because a lot of people don't talk about it, but when you make an attempt to take your life and then you survive, there's a lot of issues when it comes to family and friends because you didn't reach out. They feel in some way that, angry, and you have to apologize to a lot of people for the way that you feel, and that takes a lot when you're already still struggling. So that was big for me too. There was a lot of family and social circumstances that I really had to fix, and some I still haven't. It takes time, but that and getting used to my medications were really big for me because I have a lot of different mental health conditions, and unfortunately with that, when you're on medications, some things affect symptoms of other things, and it's just kind of balancing everything out and getting used to having a therapist to talk to. So.
Oh, okay, that's nice. Was it really easy to get a therapist, and how much were you paying as at the time?
So for me, while I was still actively working, my copay, because it was a copay I pay every month for insurance, which pays most of that, my copay was $40 each session. And it started to pile up as soon as I got out of the hospital because they put you in what's called outpatient, which is basically 3 therapy sessions a week with a group and then one with a single therapist one-on-one. And it just really started racking up to, $160 a week. And I could not afford that anymore. Yeah. Once that happened, I kind of fell out of the group therapy and the outpatient. I couldn't afford it anymore. So I just stayed with the one therapist. And honestly, I've had 3 because it's not one size fit all with therapy. And as a borderline, I have a lot of trouble with one-on-one therapy.
Yeah, I understand.
It's really hard for me to have that connection.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why FindHappiness is here, because a lot of people cannot afford this basic mental health care. It's quite expensive, so that's why we try to get you guys to tell these stories so people can, relate with other people's stories and, get out of their experiences, so you don't go from amber to red, you can go back from amber to green, because if you go from amber to red, it's something else, then it starts affecting your health and all that, and so I have another question to ask. Can you share some of the resources or strategies that you have found most helping in managing your mental health?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, I am a writer.
Okay.
Writing is my number one tip for anybody dealing with any kind of depression, anxiety, any honestly mental health symptom of a condition that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Can be solved by writing it out. Don't react, just write it out. Sometimes by writing things out in that moment, we look at it from an outside perspective. When we reread it to ourselves, we think maybe this isn't the right response. You start to look at things a little differently. We tend to react based on emotion, and we forget that emotions are temporary visitors. So it's always best to take a step back, write things out, and really look at it. Even when it comes to conflict with other people or emotional situations, take a second to step back and write it out first before you respond, always. Another thing that I highly suggest is physical exercise. Always. It is the biggest tip that I've heard. Anything physical. Go outside, get some fresh air. When your body is running, your mind is not. So it's always good to get some kind of physical exercise in. Also, if you have internet but you don't have access to mental health resources, there are plenty of podcasts and YouTube stations and channels
like
that you can find that have, like FindHappiness, that will help you find answers to find happiness. You know, a lot of the times we just don't know what's going on. Yeah. So it's definitely good to use those resources, write it out, and make a plan. You have to live your life with intent. If you don't have intent to be happy, you won't be happy. You have to have intent. And a lot of that is making some kind of plan with achievable goals. It's not to say, hey, I'm going to lose 50 pounds by next month, because that's not feasible. I set an unreal expectation. Instead, I'll say, I want to lose 50 pounds. I think if I lose 2 pounds in the next month, I'll be at a good start. It's, you know, accepting and loving yourself for the little victories that you make and setting achievable goals to move forward, because that helps with anxiety, it helps with ADHD, it helps with depression, and a lot of symptoms of schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, and borderline personality disorder, just to name a few. So.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice. So I think you've heard from her. One of the basic things she talked about was writing down and, you know, meditating on it. This helps you to really focus and get out of depression and all that she has said. So how have you been able to use your own experience to connect with others and others who are struggling with mental health issues too?
So it honestly started when I started posting in a group. I have 2 podcasts. One is the mental health podcast that I made in Project, because it is more than just a podcast. It's a lot of things. But I also have another one that I started, which is a comedy podcast, because I am a comedian by career. So I'm a comedian and an author.
Okay, so sorry I'm cutting you, but before the end of this show, you're going to crack a joke, and you must make me laugh.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay. So, I started with a comedy podcast, and through that I met a few people. But back when I got out of the hospital, I really started researching the different mental health conditions and scouring the internet, putting information together, and getting with psychiatrists and doctors and neurologists to try to get more information on it. And through a group that I found on Facebook for like guests on podcasts, I met a ton of people from all over the world who have mental health either issues, or they specialize in mental health conditions, or they're just advocates that like to talk about it. And that's really how I've grown in what I know. But it's also like it's helped me put out a lot of content for people to see as well. So I hope that answers the question. But I really got resources from Facebook groups and made a lot of connections with people who've been through crazier things than I have, believe it or not. And that's really that's made the project even bigger. So
no, that helps too. You know, people really do not know where to get resources when they have issues, like, you know. So this is very helpful.
Yeah.
This is very helpful. And in what ways do you hope your platform can make a difference in the life of others?
So the reason I think and I want my podcast and project, because the podcast is only one small part of it. I do weekly lives, I do interviews, there's just a bunch of stuff to it, but what I'm really hoping to do with this is kind of revolutionize the way we educate about mental health.
Okay.
Honestly. The page that I have on Facebook for it is monitored by the suicide hotline. So anybody messaging that says something that I flag, they will immediately take over. Makes it really important part of that, because it makes it more personal. Instead of talking on the phone, they can now see everything about this person, their likes, their dislikes, their family, their friends, what they're going through based on their posts. Makes it that much deeper of a connection. I'm hoping to spread information to the younger generation. I'm making educational material for schools because it's important to educate the younger children about mental health.
Yeah.
Because if we, as like my generation, I'm in my 30s, where we're at right now, we kind of set the tone for mental health because we were the first ones to really speak up about it. It's become widespread now since COVID, but it wasn't always that way. And in order to keep it that way, we have to put that education down to the next generation. So I'm working on that as well. I'm just really hoping to tell as many people as I can, not just my story, but other people's story, so that they know that, number one, there is not a single person in the world who's alone in whatever they've been through.
Exactly.
But also that there is help out there for free if you know where to find it. You know, like your podcast, my project, there's a million other people too. You don't need health insurance. You don't need a doctor. It's recommended. But if you can't afford it, there's millions of videos with free information too.
Yeah, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this, to help people who can't afford basic mental health care issues and all that, to have access to this kind of resources, you know, to make them feel better and get going.
Absolutely.
Okay. Before you crack your joke, so I'm really waiting for that, because you need to make them laugh really hard out there. Can you share any advice that you have for someone who is a survivor of a violent crime or who's struggling with depression? What advice do you have for them out there, for our viewers out there?
I would say my best piece of advice is to speak up.
Okay.
A lot of the times when we go through a violent crime, we tend to hold on to that. But the problem with doing that is you're holding on to it like it's a secret, but it's not a secret to keep. Mm-hmm. And that's just going to eat you alive. You need to speak up about it, be loud about it, because your story could be somebody else's survival guide. Yeah, like mine could be somebody else's survival guide.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really important. And it's also important to reach out to the right people for help.
Yeah.
The biggest problem that we have, and it's a form of self-sabotage when I say this, okay? We reach out to people that we know can't help us.
Yeah.
Why? Because we didn't want help in the first place. So the next time we go through something and we don't reach out, when somebody asks us why we didn't, we can use that as an excuse. Well, I did reach out and nobody helped. When in reality, you knew in the first place that person wasn't capable of helping you or comforting you or giving you support. So reach out to the right people. If we're all full, little half full cups, and we're pouring into each other at not tit for tat or equal, but I pour into your cup when yours is empty and you pour into mine. That's how relationships are supposed to work.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're pouring into cups that are full of holes, and they're not retaining any of the stuff that we're giving them. Yeah. So when we go to get something back, there's nothing there because their cup had holes in it. So pay attention to who you're pouring your love into yourself, and reach out to the people who can return that love when you need it to reach out.
Oh, that's so wonderful. That's so wonderful, Christyann. That's so wonderful. That's so wonderful. Thank you very much. So your joke.
So trying to think of most of my material is kind of adult related. So
that's fine. That's
I'm
fine.
trying to think of one. You say that, but so I wrote a book called The Hoe Handbook in my early 20s.
Okay.
And it's tips on how to please and be pleasing through sexual and self-empowerment. And it has these little guidelines, and I'm going to give you a couple of them right now out of my book, because they're funny, but they also have messages behind them, which I think helps because of your podcast. So the first rule in my hoe handbook, I'm sorry to get a little X-rated, is a hoe will always wear a hair tie around the wrist. Why? Because hoes are always ready to suck dick or fight, and that's that. So the reason that yes, it's funny and it's silly, but there's a message behind it. Yes, there's the joke, but the real message is to just be prepared for anything. That's the real message behind it. That right there.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
So I have a lot of little jokes like that, but they're like real guidelines that I have for people, you know? Another one is, if I have to work for someone, there better be someone good looking in the area or in the office. And if not, there better be a mirror at my desk, because I'm not working anywhere. I'm not having a good time. You know, I need something nice to look at.
Yeah, exactly. You need to look at yourself. Exactly.
That's right. Well, if there's no one else nice to look at, then yeah, you better put a mirror in there. I wake up every day and I look in the mirror and I say, you are a hard 7 out of 10.
Exactly.
Now, I know that I'm a 10 out of 10.
Exactly.
But if I say that to myself with the high level of confidence I already have, then I'll just get conceited. So for everybody else, I tell them to do that. Look in the mirror. Tell yourself you're a 10 out of 10 every day. You know?
Yeah.
Say it until you believe it's true. But for me, I'm like, no, girl, bring it down. You're like a 7. All right? There's some work that needs to be done here. All right?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people talk down on themselves. They look at themselves and they just don't feel that kind of importance, you know. So, but when you tell yourself the truth, when you look at the mirror and tell yourself, hey, look, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're this, you're that, you know, you just go out there and do the right things. Yeah, finally.
That's right.
So let us know how people can reach you on the social media, and if they need help and they need to connect with you, let's know what your handles are.
Sure. So I have a website where you can find all that, because it makes it so much easier. And it's my name. It's CA.Kanooble.com.
Okay.
You can find all of my stuff on there. Comedy. You can find my book that's relaunching in June.
Okay.
All the fun stuff and all my social media handles. But if you're looking for the mental health portion, you can go to mentallyKillproject.org. There's a lot of resources on there. I'm actually updating the website in the background when I'm done here, so to put more stuff on there, and that's where you can find all the links for that kind of stuff too, and resources for mental health related stuff. So if you want to laugh, you can go to CAKanooble.com. If you want to get some mental help, then you could go to mentallyKillproject.org.
Wow, okay. Wow, okay, thank you very much. Thank you for getting on here. So to our viewers out there, you've heard from Christyann Kanooble herself, how she survived from a violent crime, and here she is spitting it out, saying it as if nothing happened. She's a survivor, a strong woman. So I want you to take the useful tips she has given out there and, you know, apply it. And remember that happiness is a choice. This is Find Happiness Podcast. We are here to help you get off depression. Thank you very much, and see you on the next episode. Bye.